Hi, and thanks for tuning in to Gary Teaches Maths. Today I'm going to explain to you how to use the completing the square method to solve a quadratic equation, such as the one that we have here. Just notice that there isn't a number in front of the x squared, and for us to apply this completing the square method, we need there to be no number there. So in this case, with no number, that means it's a 1x squared. If that wasn't the case, you would need to manipulate this equation a little bit to make it a 1x squared. Okay, now to solve this using this method, we need to remember that a quadratic equation in its general form can be written as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And the a, b and c are the coefficients within the quadratic equation. So here we can see that the a is the number that's multiplying the x squared. So that's a 1 there. So we can say that a is equal to 1. The b is the number that's multiplying the x. So that means that b is equal to 4. And the c is the final term, including the sign. So there it's a negative. So we can say c is equal to negative 5. So the way we use the completing the square method is we rewrite this equation, x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0, in the completed square form. And what we have is a formula for that, which is that x plus b over 2 all squared minus b over 2 all squared again plus c is equal to 0. So we rewrite this equation in this form, taking into account the numbers that we've worked out, a, b and c are. So if I rewrite this now, replacing b by 4 and c by minus 5, what we'll get is this. We'll get that the bracket starts with x and then it becomes 4 over 2, because b is 4, all squared, minus 4 over 2 in a bracket, again because b is 4, all squared. Now plus, we have to take into account there's a negative sign in front of the 5, so plus minus 5, and I might put a little bracket around there, that equals 0. Now we're going to tidy all this up, so we'll get x plus 2, because 4 over 2 is equal to 2, 4 divided by 2, all squared, minus, again 4 over 2 is 2, so that's 2 squared, and then plus and a minus sign next to each other make a minus, so minus 5 equals 0. I'm just going to sweep through this again and tidy it up a little bit more. We can see 2 squared there will turn into 4. So we end up with x plus 2 all squared minus 4 minus 5 equals 0. Again, negative 4 and negative 5. If we think about a number line, we could say here's 0, here's negative 4, and if we take away 5 from it, we'll go further down and we'll end up at negative 9. Okay, so we'll just tidy that up again. So we end up with x plus 2 all squared minus 9 equals 0. We're now going to try and get the x on its own on the left hand side and solve it in a similar way we would do to a linear equation. This isn't linear because it's got a squared on it, so linear doesn't have powers in it. First thing we can do easily is we can try and get rid of the negative 9 here by adding 9 to both sides. So we're going to add 9 to both sides there, and what that will give us is that x plus 2 all squared equals 9. The next thing we need to try and do is get rid of this squared sign here. So we can see the square. We want to try and get rid of that. And the way we do that is we do the opposite to squaring, which is square rooting. So we're going to square root now both sides. Put square root over that, square root over that. So if I square root x plus 2 all squared, I just get x plus 2, because squaring and square rooting cancel each other out. Now, the square root of 9, you might think, is just 3. Square root being the number that we can multiply by itself to give us what's underneath the square root. And you would be correct, because 3 times 3 does equal 9. But there's another answer to that as well, and that is negative 3, because negative 3 times negative 3 will also give us 9. So we've got two answers here to the square root of 9. So we can write that as being plus or minus 3. And this is where we get two answers, as we usually do when we solve a quadratic. Next thing we're going to try and do is get rid of this plus 2 here. So we can do that by doing the opposite to adding 2, which is taking away 2, just like that. And we end up with an x on this side, and we end up with negative 2 plus or minus 3. So that gives us two answers. Negative 2 plus 3 will actually give us 1, or positive 1. We don't need to write the plus there, but just to emphasize that it's now positive, it's a positive 1. And the other answer that we get is negative 2 take away 3, and we can see again, if we look at the number line, we've got 0 there, negative 2 there, and if we're taking away 3 from that, we're actually going to go down, further down, and we end up at negative 5. So we've got x is positive 1 or negative 5. And that's our answer. If it's been useful to you, please subscribe to Gary Teaches Maths, and also please like this on YouTube or wherever you're watching it. Thanks very much. Thanks for watching.